All right, you guys. I'm at the last stop of the trip. I've been invited into the home of Brian, and he likes to collect Haworthia truncata, all sorts of different kinds of Haworthia. So I have a bunch of footage, and I want to share it with you guys. So say hi to Brian.
Hey guys.
This is Brian. He's inviting me to his home, and we have a table full of really cool plants here that I thought we could show off and introduce you guys to. So let's take a look. All right, Brian, what do we got here?
So, here are some of my noteworthy plants here that I'd like to show off.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, so what's this guy over here?
So that's your plant now. This is Haworthia truncata.
All right. And so what's special about truncatas?
Truncatas will grow in this sort of in Chinese it's actually called a jade fan.
Oh yeah.
Because it grows like a little bit like a fan. And they'll grow in this linear, flat. I wish I had a better example here.
And so all the new leaves come straight out of the center.
Yep. All Haworthias will grow new leaves from the center. Center of the rosette or center of the spiral.
Okay. And so do truncata flower as well? It looks like there's something maybe coming up.
There's a flower growing on this one here.
And so is it possible then to like harvest that seed? Can you collect it when it?
Yep. And that's actually one of the most sought out thing to do is to create your own new hybrid.
Yeah. So if you happen to have two Haworthia flowering, it's kind of like if you're a proactive collector, you probably think to yourself that you should probably get in there and like pollinate those seeds, pollinate the flowers if you can.
And that's what I've already started doing with these flower stalks here.
So the idea is then you've already pollinated these two, and you're going to.
I've already have.
You already have, and then you're going to try and create a hybrid if you can.
Yeah.
Cool.
And people will usually have a very methodical thought process as to which two plants that they will cross.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for me, these two are just the only two plants that I have flowering. So I don't really have a choice right now. I'll just have to end up what they.
Cool. And so obviously some hybrids would be more valuable than others depending on what plant the flower is coming from, which is something I wanted to ask you. It seems like from what I've gathered from previous conversation, you can have two Haworthia, two plants of the exact same variety, and one plant will be worth exponentially more than the other plant of the exact same variety. What's the deal with that? How does that work?
So basically it will depend on, for example, these two plants here. The markings that you develop on these leaves will be the biggest price factor.
Okay.
Next thing people like to look at are size of leaf.
Of course.
And I was telling you just earlier that once they show a mature leaf, that's the kind of markings you'll get for the rest of this plant's life.
So what would you consider the leaves that aren't mature then? That doesn't signify what the color pattern will be?
Yeah, so for example, this one, you can see that a mature leaf is coming in the middle. I don't know if you can get that, but...
yeah, on the other camera I did.
Yeah, so, you can tell the markings change, and as the plants go through their life, early stages, mid-plant, and mature, they'll change their appearance quite strikingly, to be honest.
And then once you get the mature leaf from the center and it's got like whatever cool pattern you like, there's a way to actually like take an exact duplicate of that plant, right?
Yes.
Like you can try to collect a seed, but it may not necessarily be the exact same thing as what you got on your main plant.
Seeds will never be because these plants can't be self-pollinated. Which is one of the reasons why they go for so much. That you have to take two plants of different DNA if you want seeds, and those seeds will never ever turn out like either of the parent plants.
Okay, so if you have one parent plant that you love and it's got beautiful color, it's got great pattern on the leaves, how is it that you can take an exact duplicate of that plant?
The closest way to get a duplicate would be to take a leaf propagation. You can even take a root propagation for these plants.
Yeah.
And final would be, or you can wait for the plant to offset.
Right.
And then finally would be you could clone the plant in a lab, which is a process called tissue culturing.
Right. Okay, so that sounds a little bit extreme, but something that these guys might want to try at home would be taking like a leaf cutting. So like on a Echeveria, you have to make sure that you actually like take your leaf and break it really clean. Is that something you have to do with Haworthias?
It's actually even more important with Haworthia.
Oh yeah, okay.
When some people, to try and maximize their yield, will actually slice a tiny layer of the stem to make sure that there is.
Oh,
Yes.
so you'll even get in close enough with your little scalpel.
Yeah.
Take a little bit of stem just to make sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool.
And that usually, gives you the best chances of successfully getting a leaf propagation.
Wow. Okay. And so if you then so that's one way you can do a leaf propagation, but if you wanted to collect an offshoot, like at what size can you take it off, or at what size do you leave it? What's the idea there?
That's really dependent on the grower. Some people like to take them off when they're just big enough to survive being taken off
Right.
without roots.
So we're talking like a half-inch or quarter-inch?
Yeah, tiny, like half-inch, but
okay.
Sometimes it's hard to get something like that to establish. But the reason to take it off so early is that it's technically a parasite,
right,
leeching off the parent plant. So, and then on the other side, some people like to wait until their offset has grown to an actual, sizable plant with its own roots, because when you do it that way, you don't really have to worry about the plant not establishing.
So there's like a super fine line between like an offshoot being beneficial and you get excited about an offshoot, but there's like a really fine tipping point where all of a sudden you need to get that plant off there before it starts taking the energy from the mother plant.
Yes.
Wow,
and
very
same
cool.
with the flower stalks.
Yeah, okay.
You don't, you pollinate the amount of flowers that you want, and then you cut off the rest, because if it keeps flowering, it's just taking energy up. It's not really doing the plant any good.
Wow, really cool. Okay, so what's the deal then? I see that you have like this doesn't really look like dirt. What do you got in here?
So this exactly is akadama. This comes from Japan. It's a fired clay meant for growing bonsai usually.
So what's the idea? It's really well draining.
Yes, most grit. I use mostly grit to promote good drainage.
Okay.
And then there is some components like cocoa fibers just to hold enough moisture so that the plants aren't too dry, because that is actually something you can do as well.
Okay, so you can definitely underwater these guys.
Yeah.
So are you more concerned about overwatering or underwatering?
Definitely overwatering.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Hey. Yeah. So in these then, this material that you see on top, a lot of people in the succulent hobby, they like to top dress their containers with fancy rock. This isn't top dressing.
Some is.
Some
is?
For
example, this is actually top dressing.
Oh yeah,
I have a different mix down there. This is not top dressing. This plant is grown completely in this grit medium called turfus.
Okay, turfus. So would you say then, for these guys on YouTube, what would happen then if you took this plant and someone purchased it online and they wanted to get it shipped to them?
Yeah.
And then you uprooted it, shipped it bare root to them, and then they planted it in soil or in potting soil or in something else. What would happen?
You will most likely see most of the roots rot off, and then you'll have to give the time to establish new roots.
Oh yeah.
Because we're not too sure, but there is a discussion that says these plants kind of specialize their roots to the medium that they're being grown in. We're not, completely sure.
Sure, but it's an idea.
Yeah.
And so if that happened, then, like, if I purchased a plant from you and you shipped it to me, and I planted in potting soil and the roots rot off, I haven't killed my plant.
No.
No, it can still root out again, and it might even root out a little bit in favor of the soil that I planted in. Very cool.
If anything, I've actually, these are pretty hard plants to kill.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
So it's a good hobby to get into.
Yeah.
Okay. So what, for the people of YouTube, what would be a grossly expensive Haworthia? Like, what's the echelon? What's the top tier Haworthia out there that would be like a dream plant?
So Haworthia Maughani, this type here, is the most expensive type. And then if you had a variegated version of a very expensive Maughani, then you're talking in the ranges of tens of thousands of dollars.
Tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Holy cool. Okay, so what would be the value of this guy here?
That's about a $500 plant.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Wow. And to think we just got it in a backyard. Okay, so I'm looking at these two here, these two truncatas. And like, it would seem to me that this guy here would be a little bit more valuable because he has quite a bit more features on the surface of the leaves compared to this guy over here. Is that true? What's the idea there?
So when I bought them, they were the same price. But to be honest with you, I don't know what either of these plants are going to end up.
Right.
Like I said, they have multiple stages on their life that they change their appearance quite dramatically. So even though that this plant doesn't have very strong markings right now, it does have parent plants that are pretty striking, so we never know. It will eventually grow some markings, while this one here is already showing strong markings while it's small. So it's a very promising plant, but we can't really put a value on it until they reach their adult life.
Until they actually get their parent leaves.
Yeah.
Okay, very cool. What's the difference? I go to like Safeways, greenhouses, box stores, this kind of stuff, and like there's always this Haworthia called a zebra plant, and people are freaking out about it. Is this related to these Haworthia here?
So I'm not too sure where they're the same in terms of the family genus and the tree, but at some point they are from the same groupings of plants, but these have been, they're a little, completely still different.
Right. So, but if somebody wanted to get into the Haworthia collecting business, if someone decided to pursue this and they thought this was pretty neat, is it a good place to starting with those zebra plants?
No, I would say start with one of these Haworthias here.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Because they're not really the same. There are some people that will breed those zebra plants specifically, but not many.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if you like it, for sure, go ahead.
But it's not the same echelon, not the same game.
Not the same, no.
Wow, okay. So, Brian, if somebody wants to get into this hobby and they decide they want to start collecting these Haworthias and Haworthia truncatas, like, where do you begin?
I guess Facebook would be the best place to start. Just get into a community, see what kind of plants there are.
Okay.
Lots of people are offering help on how to grow these type of plants.
Okay. So what you're saying then is there's actually like Facebook communities where people are selling plants like this, or where people are helping people, or what?
Selling, helping, just showcasing, anything like that. There's a group for almost everything.
Oh yeah, cool. Okay, well, if you guys are interested in that, I'm going to put a link to one of those groups in the comments, and I think, Brian, didn't you start this group?
Yeah.
Sweet. So we're going to put a link in the description to that if you guys want to get involved and start reaching out and seeing what this plant hobby is all about. I'll put a link in the description. And Brian, if people want to buy these plants from you, is that something they can do?
Yeah.
So where would they find your plants for sale?
They can contact me on that Facebook group.
Oh yeah, so just message you or make a comment on one of your posts, and you can hook them up.
Yep.
Sweet. And do you ship across the border or just in Canada? Have you shipped across the border?
Just Canada for now.
Oh yeah, okay.
Just Canada.
Okay, just Canada for now. Sweet. Awesome. Well, thanks, Brian. Thanks for inviting me into your house and showing me your sweet collection.
Yeah, thank you, Sean, for coming for a visit.
Yeah, man. Anytime. All right, you guys. Thanks so much for watching. This is the last stop on the tour. If you guys enjoyed it, if you guys liked what you saw, give the video a thumbs up. And if you guys want to see more stuff like that, hit subscribe, and I'll hook you up. We got lots of cool stuff coming. So thanks, guys. We'll see ya.